So hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Burns and I'm here to do yet another video, and this time it isn't a try not to laugh challenge like my last video I've just recorded and is currently uploading. It is a scary video, and it is 3 true Craiglist horror stories. Now I've listened to quite a few of these videos, so there's a possibility I might have heard one of these stories before, but it makes no difference because if I have heard, if one of the stories comes up that I have heard, it's still gonna creep me out because they were quite creepy, and this might just help you to never ever put anything on Craigslist, because I don't trust Craigslist. I don't care what people say, like, oh yeah, these horror stories, they might be true, but they hardly ever happen. Okay, I don't care about that because they have happened, and there's a possibility it could happen to me if something happens. The one thing I would never ever do if I ever put anything on Craigslist would ask them to pick it up from my house. No, I wouldn't. I would ask them. I would ask them to meet me somewhere, or I would ask them for their address, or I say to them I'll send it in the post if it's a small enough thing, you know. There's no way I'd ever want someone to come to my house, because once they come to your house, if they are creepy, they know where your house is from then on, and if they don't live that far away, then they know your address, and if anything happens, if you phone the police or anything like that, and they get out, they know where you are and they can come back and get you. So that's something that I would never ever do. I'd never ever put anything on Craigslist. And after listening to these stories, because I've heard quite a few of them, it put me off for life. I never actually ever was going to, but hearing these stories, it's definitely put me off. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video. I'm sure you're going to be as creeped out as me. Here we go.
Over the summer, I needed some money to buy a new bike that I really wanted. I was only 15, so I knew that no one would hire me. I started browsing Craigslist, and I found a cleaning job that would pay $20 a day, and the owner wasn't very far from my house. The man seemed normal and polite on email, and even volunteered to give me a ride to and from his house. I was a little hesitant to give this man my address, but it seemed that I didn't really have a choice if I wanted that bike. "I will pick you up at 8:45, so be ready," he said. I was wondering if this was such a good idea after all. Tomorrow came and I was ready by 8:45, but he wasn't there. Finally, by 9 he arrived. I got in and he started driving to his house. We arrived and I started to walk to the door and just waited for him to unlock his front door. I entered his house and it wasn't that dirty. Just a couple clothes that needed to be folded and a couple blankets that were piled up in his living room. I scooped them up and folded them neatly. I did the same routine of cleaning his house every Friday for 2 weeks. On the week following that, I was in the car and he seemed to be acting a little strange. Well, not acting strange, I guess. We arrived in the house and he started to follow me, like watched me as I cleaned. I told him that I needed to go to the bathroom, so I walked upstairs to the bathroom. Once I am at the sink, I washed my hands and I noticed a small camera peeping out of the wall, almost as if it was meant for people not to see. I pulled out my phone to text my friend back about going to the movies that night, and I dropped it. I bent over to pick it up from under the sink, and I noticed old videotapes labeled Ashley Smith was one of them. I became a little frightened once I realized that this was here, because Ashley Smith went missing no less than a week ago. Another tape was called Adam Freeman. My heart sank to the bottom of my body. That was my name. I left the bathroom and told the man that I had to leave. He said that it's fine because he had to go to work. I did think it was better because on the other days I was alone when cleaning the house, but today he stayed, which is another reason why I felt that I needed to get the heck out of there. On the car ride back, I noticed that we weren't going in any direction to my house, which is the way that we usually went. "What did you see in the bathroom?" he yelled. I sat there silently, trying to build up the courage to say something. We were approaching a small town and we were stopped at a red light. I opened my car door and ran for my life. I ran over to a crowd of people where I knew the man couldn't see me or search for me. I noticed this car pull up away, and then I called my mom in tears to come and pick me up. She came and took me home. Later that night, we found out this man was a serial rapist, and they caught him when he was trying to flee the state after being pulled over by the sheriff for speeding when he took off. They caught him later that night.
Okay, never should a girl of that young look for a cleaning job on Craigslist. Now, I'm not saying all cleaning jobs would be, some old man wanting to rape girls, but never should a young girl like that, a young girl who's probably vulnerable because she is so young, look for a job on Craigslist. Okay, she needed to get a bike, but she was 15. Okay, I'm not saying, I don't know if her parents had a lot of money, but when you're that young, when you can't actually physically have a job apart from a paper round, and you're not earning any money, your parents, because you're under the age of 16, your parents should be paying for your stuff. You shouldn't have to pay for it yourself. I don't know if everybody agrees with that, but that's how I see it, because you're not officially an adult until, well, I believe, 16. You're still a child when you're 15, so no girl should have to go on Craigslist and find a job so she can pay for her own stuff when she should be getting that stuff for her birthday or Christmas or something like that. It was silly for her to do that, and I do feel sorry for what happened. But it's good that she got away. Anyway, here we go.
I lived with my sister, who was 23, in a small apartment because our parents were killed in a car crash a couple years prior. I went to the local public school and was on the baseball team. My baseball bag ripped and I was looking for a replacement on Craigslist because everywhere else is much more expensive. I came across a nice looking baseball bag for only $20. My sister and I emailed the man about his offer for the bag, and he responded a couple hours later. He said that the bag was still for sale and we could meet in any location that would work for me. How about the Dollar Tree? We said, because it was just down the road and he isn't very far from us anyway. He said he can only go at 9 p.m. because he works on a late shift. My sister gave me $20 for the bag because she had to work tonight at her waitress job down at the local restaurant. I left at 8:45 and started my bike ride down the street to the Dollar Tree. When I got there, I only saw one car in the parking lot, so I knew it must be him. I thought to myself, should I really do this? I approached the car, and the man got out. I asked, where is the baseball bag? He replied, I forgot it at my house. Want to come back with me and get it? I said, no thanks. He appeared to be growing a little impatient and agitated. You can have the bag for free, he said. I started to get back on my bike when I noticed him getting into his car. I sped off down the street into my apartment building and locked my bedroom door and the two windows that were inside. I heard a knock at the door. I waited for the person to leave, but whenever I thought that they left, they just knocked again. I heard someone kicking at the door, trying to knock it straight off the hinges. He broke the door down. Just as that happened, he saw me. He stared at me and said, you still want that bag? To which I replied, get out of my apartment. I guess I must have been pretty loud because about 15 seconds later, one of the neighbors ran in with a bat and knocked out the intruder. We called the police and they came to arrest the man. Later that night, we found out that he was a kidnapper and that he has been wanted in many states.
Okay, short and sweet story. See, this is why you shouldn't buy stuff off Craigslist. I mean, there's all sorts of people on there. I mean, it's probably one of the easiest ways for a serial rapist or a serial killer to get their prey, because they don't know, obviously people, wanting the stuff that these serial rapists and serial killers are selling. They don't know that they're serial rapists or serial killers. So it's one of the easiest ways for these people to get their prey. And some people aren't as smart as this kid and would have gone, or kid or adult, or whatever it was, and would have gone with the guy. So I don't know. It just seems wrong, and never will I ever buy anything from Craigslist. The blue Mustang.
I was recently searching for a car on Craigslist, and I found a deal of a lifetime for a good-looking blue Mustang. I contacted the owner, and he laughed. I only uploaded my offer for that car 4 minutes ago, and someone already wants it, he said while laughing. Yeah, I want it. It looks great, I replied. Want to come over tonight at 6 p.m. to check out the house? He said. Sure, your address is on the Craigslist post, right? I responded. Yes, it is. Email me shortly before you arrive so I know when you will get here, he stated. Sounds good. See you then. It was at 5:45 I emailed him and heard a reply around 5 minutes later. Come on up to my front door. I approached the house and the car was not in sight. The house looked old and run down. I knocked on the door and didn't hear a response. Only footsteps that were creaking on the loud wooden floor. Muffled breathing was definitely something that made me question if I should be here or not. Finally, on the third knock, a man, probably in his 30s, answered the door and told me that the car was in his basement in the garage. He opened up the door and tried to lead me down the basement. I should have known to just leave at that moment, but I really wanted the car. The basement seemed unfinished, as if the owners were in a hurry to get it done. The man said, my friend is in the garage working on the car, so that is why it was down here. In case if you were wondering. I replied, oh, that's fine. He led me to a room in the back of his basement and told me to go in there because that's where the car was. I was a little freaked out because I kept hearing more footsteps upstairs, but he claimed it was his wife. I thought it was weird that he had to explain all these things to me. Couldn't he have just told me that in the email? I opened the door and there was no car in there. I made a run for it up the stairs and out of the house. Whoever was in that house didn't bother to follow me up the stairs and out of the house. But just as I pulled away, I saw a man looking at me from the front of the porch in the old rundown house. I reported this incident to Craiglist and the police. Craiglist took the post down for the car and the police searched the house but found nothing. Apparently the house was in foreclosure for years and no one had been living there.
Okay, here's another thing. When you're looking for a car and you see a blue Mustang or a really nice car that seems strangely cheap, don't ever try and buy it, because it's most likely someone who's not right or a serial killer or a serial rapist, because nobody is gonna, for a blue Mustang, gonna have it ridiculously low when they know they can get a lot of money for it. Nobody. So only serial rapists and serial killers will put it that low, because everybody's gonna think, oh, that's still a lifetime, I'll go and get it. Never ever do that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. It has definitely put me off going on Craiglist. Anyway, thank you for watching. Goodbye.